Hey everyone, welcome to an Otherverse hobby video. Today we're going to paint an Iron Hands Rhino and talk about planning out large painting projects. So, I'm very obsessive, but let's say methodical as a hobbyist. As you might have seen in my last video, I have a lot of shame and or potential projects built up. I count these projects in armies, not models, not units, but whole entire armies or other complete boss games. Fairly large scale projects. I am finishing up an Iron Hands army right now, then I have Grey Knights. Gotta finish my Salamanders already started, and I have a whole Death Watch army unpainted, and that's just to name a few. I find the key to most things is preparation, and that goes doubly for large hobby projects. It's common to get bored or burnt out when you're in the middle of an army or a long painting project. It's easy to get overwhelmed when you have a large project right in front of you, or even if it's just, neatly packed up in boxes and hidden away. And without planning, it's easy to build and or paint things that you just don't even need, want, or will ever get any use out of. I defeat these frustrations in advance with a sound plan and set some goals. So let's dive in and see how I do that. So when I set out to build my Iron Hands, I didn't just go to a local store or an online shop, click some buttons, and buy some kits. It all started with an idea. I want an allied detachment worth of every Loyalist Legion to accompany my 30k Ultramarines, and I want each Primarch. I try not to even buy the Primarch until I'm done, painting the allied detachment, but if I end up with it, I will not build or paint it until the rest of the allied detachment is painted. The first three allied detachments are going to be Salamanders, Iron Hands, and Raven Guard. With a little extra planning, when combined, these three will actually make a Shattered Legion army for 30k, netting me an entire extra army. So there are already two things I have to include in my plan. But on top of that, I also want to get some Primaris Marines and be able to field them as a complete 40k army when combined. So obviously some sacrifices will have to be made. For instance, I put Power Fists on the Gorgon Terminators to proxy less, in 40k. It's easier to tell what they are. I planned a support squad and a heavy support squad to swap out the special weapons and heavy weapons into the 40k tactical squads to use as, special weapons, as opposed to the 30k tactical squads, which just use regular old bolters. It's not a big deal, but I had to plan that in advance. I tried to maximize squads and vehicles that I can use in both games and kind of keep the 30k only stuff to a minimum. This kind of project could easily get out of hand. Okay, let's start with avoiding the frustration of unnecessary or redundant units, or worse, having to rebuy or rebuild a kit. I use Battlescribe from time to time. I use the GW Army Builder app for theory crafting armies, or, kind of quick, or kind of playing around with some ideas. But for the most part, I rely on my spreadsheet collection. They are extensive. I personally use Google Drive to store the Google Docs and Google Sheets files. That way, I can access them kind of anywhere, from my PC or my Chromebook, from my phone. I can even log into the computer at work or a friend's house. As long as I can get into my Google account, I can get access. I can also share those files with my friends, let them build their own spreadsheets from the ones I started, or just check out my army lists. I don't even usually buy models until I have a plan for that army. Weapon options are often a pretty big topic at the hobby table. Ryan and I specifically discuss various 40k options all the time. For Heresy, though, I turn to Cliff, for guidance. Usually these discussions are to verify my thoughts, but sometimes it really starts from the unknown, not knowing what to go with the options that are presented in the book. Once I have planned out an army in theory, and in my head kind of have an idea of what I'm going for, then it gets transposed into the spreadsheets. I copy all of the stats, make quick notes of the rules, have it ready as a play aid, as well as just kind of my sheets for keeping track of the plan. And then the project truly begins. I purchase what I have laid out in those spreadsheets, and this way I can just buy the models, and when they arrive, I just start building them without having to worry. By planning ahead, for instance, you can make sure you have all the special weapons you might need for a squad, like buying 5 sets of Mark IV Marines for Heresy, knowing that the 5 kits will each come with 1 Melta gun, allowing for a 5-man support squad of Meltas, while knowing you have enough Sergeant models to make the both support squads that you want and the tactical squads. And then that you have 5 guys waiting around to buy Forge World weapons for the heavy weapons. That decision making ahead of time to make sure that you have the weapons you need is important, because if you start building and you don't have what you need, you're kind of stuck. It also is very useful to have an organized bits box. It can help you out a lot when you're making those plans. You can rummage through and see what you have for parts, or you can do some pre-scouting work on eBay, see if there's some bits available that you might be able to use. With 5 kits of guys, you can have bodies for 2 20-man tac squads, 5-man support squad with those Meltas you were planning, and a 5-man whatever missile launcher, Gatling guns. That's like the core of a Heresy army, and you just did all that planning to make sure that you're ready to go as soon as you get the models. Once I have the models in hand, we'll start building, and I will leave whatever I need to in sub-assemblies to make the job of painting them much easier. I happen to be in a pretty lucky position where I have multiple painted armies to play with, and I don't have to build my project to 100% complete to have something to put on the gaming table for a while. If you don't have that luxury, I still suggest working in sub-assemblies and using blue tack to temporarily assemble those models for games. This way, you can make sure that you're leaving yourself some ease of painting, reducing your stress. Then the planning process moves into the next stage. The most important part of the planning process for me is to design smaller, more manageable chunks of the project to complete. With that done, you'll have a few easier tasks in front of you with minor interrupts as necessary. What does that even mean, Tyson? Here's an example. My Iron Hands Army project is broken up into 3 stages. The first is the 40k portion, mostly Primaris. Got 2 HQ, 2 troops, 1 elite choice, a fast attack, and 2 heavy support options to make a playable patrol detachment, and you can scale it down as needed. The second and third stages are Heresy models. One stage will be models for an allied detachment, an HQ, 2 troops, an elite, and a heavy support for now, with 2 dedicated transports. The third will be the rest of the Heresy models I have. A couple more elite, a couple more troop, It includes Ferrus Manus, and that way, I'll have kind of a whole thing done at that point. I allow a little alteration of the plan, if the inspiration hits me. I already had my Gorgon Terminators done for my Elite Ally slot, but I really wanted to paint the Contemptor Dreadnought, so I did. Once each small, manageable stage is complete, the whole project is done. It will be less daunting that way, and, less daunting than looking at an entire table of minis and asking where you should start. If you get overwhelmed before you start, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. If you set easy time frame goals for each stage of the project, it'll just be more manageable, and smaller projects with easy deadlines make the project less stressful on you. Depending on your painting ability, the time you have to actually hobby, the number of models involved in your project, be it a boxed game or a whole freaking army. You may even include different number of stages, different number of models in each. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is that you're making attainable goals for yourself. I also like to line up side project or two, kind of as a break. It's one thing to push through the last unit or two of your army project just to get it completed. But if you push too much for too long, you're just going to lose interest, and that project might just get relegated to the shame pile for all of eternity. Can't say that hasn't happened to me. While working on my Iron Hands, I have the 2021 Red Gobo and the Aliens board game for, Another Glorious Day in the Core. I keep these small projects that I call interrupts kind of ready and pre-planned, so that if I get tired of painting one color, I have something kind of waiting in the wings to work on. They are great palette cleansers of sorts too between the stages of the project, so things don't get stale. Necromunda gangs, quick and easy board games, one-off characters, or just a unit for a previously completed project that you bought lately, they all make excellent project interrupts. Just make sure they are totally dissimilar from the major project you're planning and working on. Largely kills the point if you paint a Black Death Watch kill team in between your Black Armored Iron Hands project. It's not going to do what it needs. During the next video, I will go more in depth on my planning process for that project, show some of my spreadsheets, and generally give an idea of how I got from planning to actually producing the project. Keep watching here for more painting and collection showcase videos. You can see my efforts in the Otherverse Hobby Hangout Facebook group, or I also post to Instagram as Otherverse Games. Join the community and show us your hobby work. For up-to-date tracking, as I turn my pile of shame into a collection of awesome, check out the Otherverse website. We have a link in the description below. There's actually a tracker for my shame pile. As an extra ramble while I finish up this Rhino, I'd just like to add that I'm pretty excited about the kind of rumors surrounding the new edition of Horus Heresy. Looking forward to it. If the rumors, most of the rumors are true, then we can still expect a game system that's different from the current, 9th edition Warhammer 40,000. And I think that's important to keep Heresy and it separate. We've all seen a quick glimpse of the website with the Horus Heresy name in the major banner alongside Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar, so I'm hoping that means it's going to be a flagship game for a while. There's rumors for the launch box and other starter sets after that, and I hope that means that we're going to have this around for a while, and that it'll be a distinct game and be fully supported. And I'm excited to see some of the vehicles and general models, general units go to plastic instead of all Forge World resin. I like Forge World resin, as weird as that sounds. I kind of find it fun to work with. At this point, plastic is kind of easy, and resin at least poses a challenge every time you get a hold of it. Whether it's filing things to get them to work right, or literally dipping them in boiling water and bending them by hand until they get to where they should be. So I look forward to that. I'm expecting it kind of springtime, and it'll be good to play, because just as I was getting into the Horus Heresy, I built an army, we were about to start playing, the whole COVID thing landed, and haven't touched it since. I've painted some models, but now I'm getting ready, getting anxious to just play the game. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is how the Rhino turned out. Next up is the mildly embarrassing and slightly entertaining story of my Ultramarines collection. Here's the first model I tried to paint for this video. Oops.